Today is January 10th, 2014. Welcome to episode 74 of Let's Talk Bitcoin, a twice-weekly show about the ideas, people, and projects building the digital economy and the future of money. Visit us at letstalkbitcoin.com for our guest blog, all our past episodes, and of course, tipping addresses. My name is Adam B. Levine. Today we're talking new ideas for the future and stopgap solutions that meet our needs currently. My contribution to the Inside Bitcoins event on December 10th, 2013 was a panel called New Ideas in Bitcoin. I invited the gentlemen who together are behind some of my favorite innovative projects. Alex Bourget of BitCredits, Dan Larimer of Invictus Innovations, Pelly Brangard of Kipochi Wallet, Alan Reiner of Armory Wallet, and Justice Ranveer with his Protocol for a Stateless Legal System. Big thanks to MediaBistro for their support with this panel. But before we get there, last week I sat down with the founders of Boost VC-backed startup Snapcard to talk about life as a stopgap solution whose mission is to enable anyone to buy anything with Bitcoin. Enjoy the show. Bitcoin as an e-commerce solution is sometimes overshadowed by Bitcoin as a political football, but today we're going to have a conversation about actually buying things with Bitcoin. Today I'm joined by Michael Dunworth, co-founder and CEO, and Yanni Gianeros, co-founder and COO of Snapcard, which is a startup out of the Boost incubator that lets you buy anything online using Bitcoin. Gentlemen, how you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having us. We appreciate it.
Bitcoin is skyrocketing in value, and it seems like it's getting easier all the time to spend it. And you have a project that kind of fits into that second category, making Bitcoin easier to spend. Can you tell me what you're doing with Snapcard?
Yeah. So basically, Snapcard is an online service that allows you to shop on any website using your Bitcoin. So we don't require merchant side integration. Users can use it on big websites like Walmart, Amazon, eBay, Best Buy, Target, all those huge websites. We facilitate purchases for the users to those websites.
Okay, so now we have a sponsor that does gift cards, that like sells gift cards for Bitcoin through an application. We have a sponsor that has like a gift registry with Amazon where you make a wish list and then somebody buys that from you. There are a bunch of ways that people are kind of going about trying to solve this problem. How are you solving this problem? Is this a browser plugin, or are you actually, you said you're not requiring merchant side integration. How does that work?
Yeah, so what we've done just a JavaScript bookmarklet that it installs on any browser, so it's there's no limitations on browser compatibility. And all it does is you can shop normally and just hit the Snapcard button in your bookmarklet, and it'll bring up and it'll ask you to confirm the purchase. And then that gets added to your account and it gets processed on our server side. And you can just shop normally. So there's no loopholes or any different situations that you've got to go through. We process everything for you and ship it to you. Basically, yeah, you can just shop like normal, but you've just got a browser-based bookmarklet. So
this is another one of those kind of stopgap solutions where because merchants can't be bothered to accept Bitcoin, this is a way that lets you spend Bitcoin. So it kind of sounds like what you're doing is actually similar to the old BitSpend project, which was a project essentially where people would find something that they wanted to buy and then copy the URL of the item that they wanted to buy and then send it in an email to this service BitSpend, and then they would spend US dollars and would send you an invoice for the Bitcoin. Are you doing something similar to that, but automated?
Yeah, I suppose that's probably a really good analogy. BitSpend did some really great things, and they had such a really good support from the community. And we've been trying to do a really good service like they had. So we are trying to get that support from the Bitcoin community. We are a stopgap solution, but we feel that stopgap solutions, like we obviously see the disadvantage for stopgap solutions. But in the long term, it is a really good way for us to help create awareness of Bitcoin. So, if we're doing significant amount of volume on websites, that gives those websites actual data to understand how much, potential. We're doing, let's say $20,000 in transactions a day on Amazon or Newegg. Having that metric to say to Newegg, hey, there's $20,000 worth of purchases going through our account. That is a really good point of sale, I suppose, or a way to sell to those companies to get on board with Bitcoin and integrate it natively.
So you're in the winter session at the Boost VC program, right?
Yeah, that's right. We're based in San Mateo, just on the peninsula in California.
So this is a solution that's available now if people want to try it. So generally there are some fees associated with this relative to the price you would pay if you were just paying in dollars. Can you talk about the fee structure at all?
Yeah, so the fees associated with our service, it was initially a 2% fee, but we've dropped that down to 1% as of January 2014. That's said to be going through January, but we're going to wait and see how that goes and if that continues and gets extended. Yeah, so at the moment it's a 1% fee for your purchases to go through our website. So if you want to use our service, you don't have to be a US citizen. We service people in over 30 different countries, ranging from Ireland, UK, America, Australia, yeah, all across Europe. And we charge 1%, which is probably the most competitive fee structure you'll find out there for any services like that. You know, we've got full customer support, which is probably one of the things we pride ourselves on most. We know that, you know, through the Bitcoin community, people are always very conscious because there is no chargebacks. Having that consumer confidence, knowing that there's someone there at the company that they're talking to, that's one of the things we put the most pride in. So there's always, you know, a really strong support team behind you if you're having any problems with orders. And that's probably one of our things we pride ourselves on most, giving you, the consumer, the confidence to use us.
So now, I don't think that you guys are making the claim to have invented this business model. It seems like this is an advantageous thing for you guys to do now. But I'm wondering, you know, in the past with like BitSpend, they were doing good business and it seemed like the business was going quite well, but then they had a problem with their bank because the bank said, okay, well, you have all of this money coming into your account because they were selling Bitcoin for dollars so that they could then fund the business that they were doing. And the bank said to them, well, we don't know where this money is coming from, so we can't make sure that it's not coming from illegal sources, so therefore you can't have an account here. I assume that this has been something you've thought about before. Can you share with me your journey on that?
Yeah, definitely. That was one of the big sort of red flags when we initially started thinking about this. But you know, fortunately, we've been banking with Wells Fargo, and they have been really accommodating with us. Obviously, they see all our transactions where they come from, whether it's Coinbase payouts or BitPay. And so far, you know, we try and keep our relationship really transparent with them. And there's been no flags raised from their end or any complaints. So if we do have any situations, though, the users will be the first ones to know about it.
BitSpend went away for a variety of reasons. Can you kind of give us some insight on why your service isn't going to have that happen to it?
We always process the orders immediately. So any of the users' funds that are on hand, we don't actually receive those. Everything we buy is actually purchased upfront by us as the company, and then we're reimbursed by the user. So in the event, you know, the unlikely event that a bank account is frozen, which we have an exceptional relationship with our bank, we're very transparent about everything we do, which has so far been fantastic. We've been working closely with them. But in the event that, you know, an account got frozen, there'd never be a problem with the users not receiving refund, anything like that, because that account, every purchase is made instantly. So the only people who would miss out on that would be us getting our own money frozen instead of the users actually not getting their products, because when the users pay us, we buy the products with our own money, and then we get the payment from the users, you know, 24 hours later or however long it takes to process. So there's sort of that safety there for the users to know that once they've actually placed an order, we have already ordered the product immediately for them. So there's no risk of them having funds frozen or anything like that. So we don't want that to happen, but you know, that's just the process we use.
But if it does, it seems like you have something in place.
Exactly. So we're just trying to be as precautious as possible, because we know users really get a lot of use out of this service and services like this. So we need to make sure we keep it as honest as possible, and we stay around as long as possible to make sure that everyone benefits from it. So that's why we're being very upfront and very straightforward with all our relationships with the banks and with our users as well, trying to keep everything as transparent as possible.
We've been working with the banks closely and the credit card companies, because we use different sources as well, like for different transactions, and we have been working with them closely. It's full transparency between us and our business model and, you know, our bank, Wells Fargo, and there's full transparency between our credit cards that we do use. So there hasn't been an issue so far. I mean, we are going through a lot of transactions per day and the transactional volume. So we've had conversations in the past, you know, where are these transactions coming from, and it hasn't been an issue. So everything's been going smooth for us so far. So we're just excited, you know, We're extremely excited to come up to the end of this Boost program and to just get out there.
People are using this system. What are some examples? Like, what's the biggest purchase that somebody has made with Bitcoin through your service to date?
Yeah, that's actually a funny question because the smallest purchase someone has made was for 2 cents, and it was a SIM card on Amazon. And obviously from our side, we thought that was pretty funny, seeing someone buy something for 2 cents. But the largest product, we've had someone buy a $65,000 Mercedes-Benz. So that was really cool to be part of that. And the user was just absolutely over the moon. They were thrilled. So we've now got a really good relationship with that user, obviously, from working together on buying such a large item. And it was just great seeing them, being able to use their Bitcoin to literally buy almost anything. That's what we aim to be able to do. And it's cool being able to get them these really large items.
So who was the other party on if you don't mind my asking, who was the other party on this $65,000 transaction? Was this someone just offering it for sale somewhere on the internet, or did you actually work with a dealership?
So originally, they reached out to us on the internet. They'd been a client of ours who, they bought a bunch of stuff online. And then from that, they made a request if they could buy this car from a dealership in Texas. And we called up the dealership and we said, hey, we'd like to do business and we'd like to get one of our users a car. Is it possible to work together? And the dealership was very accommodating and fantastic throughout the whole process. So, obviously it was something very exciting for us because, we are a new startup. We're still in the incubator, and having something like that to our name is really gives us good credibility, and it was great to do. So we're really happy with that.
Yeah, sounds very cool. So what's next kind of on the plan for Snapcard?
Probably one of the largest requests that we get, which we have just had a huge breakthrough, and we're going to make a big announcement over the next probably the next 2 weeks, is going to be Canada. We'll be offering our services to Canada. We get so many requests for that. Being able to accommodate that, like the Canadian people have been so patient with us. So we just can't wait to release that to them. We've also got some very big announcements coming up with merchant side integration, which will be both native integration into people's websites and offering our services exclusively to some bigger brand websites that people will probably be familiar with. So there is a lot on the horizon. We have our demo day on February the 11th, which is the end of the incubator program. We're just trying to get in, some great results and really show our brand and name to be quite reputable by that time. So we're working 1,000 hours a day trying to get it done, but it's good. It's good.
Yeah, it's very exciting. It's been a long trek, but
yeah, we're getting there finally.
Yeah, it's been good.
In what you're doing, what has been the greatest barrier to entry that you have overcome, and what do you feel like retains your hold on this?
Yeah, that's actually a very, very good question. And I think, the question that answer is for the whole Bitcoin community. I mean, it's just trust, right? It's like, how can people trust us to take this money and not just run, right? That's essentially what Bitcoin companies have been kind of known to do. So trust is the biggest barrier to entry, and then having good customer support, which we do provide, having like a good investors backing us is something that is going for us and stuff like that. So trust will be the biggest thing.
Michael and Yanni, if someone wants to learn more about Snapcard, where can they go to find that out?
Yeah, they can jump online. You can go to www.joinsnapcard.com. We couldn't afford the name snapcard.com, so we put it as joinsnapcard.com. So you can jump online and check it out. We've got live chat there as well. You can always get support, so feel free to reach out to us.
Thank you so much. We're very excited.
We appreciate the time, Adam.
Michael and Yanni, thank you very much for your time. Have a great one.
Purse.io is a gift exchange that lets you get Bitcoins at only a 6% premium and with a credit card. How does it work? You purchase items for other Purse.io members from their Amazon wish lists. In return, you get Bitcoins in the amount of the Amazon purchase. The more people participate, the more Bitcoins will be available. So tell your friends. Get exclusive access today at purse.io. EasyDNS is the Swiss Army knife for your domain names, helping meet their customers' individual needs since 1998. EasyDNS has been an outspoken critic of SOPA and CISPA. EasyDNS was an early supporter of Bitcoin, and now they are proud to sponsor this show. Do business with a company that shares your values. Get a 13% discount when you pay with Bitcoin. Go to bitcoin.easydns.com and be sure to use discount code LTB.
Adam Levine is the editor-in-chief and founder of Let's Talk Bitcoin. You probably listen to his twice-weekly radio show. If you don't listen to it, you should be listening to it. He knows everybody in the space. He's a person who can introduce you to people. Let's give him a big round of applause. He's going to introduce his panel.
Good morning, everybody. So this panel is called New Ideas in Bitcoin. And when we're talking about new ideas, a lot of times it feels like, at least this year, maybe it'll change next year, we've been talking about how do we work within the existing system that we have as far as regulations and rules are concerned. I've put together a great panel here, and nobody is going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about whether or not it's legal at all. Simply, we're going to talk about the various parts that don't have that holdback, that don't have the uncertainty of the regulation, and in fact can be pushed on quite a bit. And these are the people who really are doing that pushing and are making the progress that's going to make 2014 a huge, huge year for cryptocurrency, broadly speaking. So I'm very happy to introduce to you Alexander Bourget, who is a good friend of mine, and I know very well, I just can't pronounce his last name, is the founder of bitcredits.io. Bitcredits is basically, when we have solutions that we use for paying with Bitcoin right now, like the very popular BitPay, all of those are basically built on the old model of how we shop on the internet, because credit cards kind of require a multi-step process. And so BitCredits is one of the first systems that I've seen that requires no such thing, and it does some other innovative things too. So thank you very much for being here. Next up we have Dan Larimer. Dan's the CEO of Invictus Innovations. As far as innovative altcoins are concerned, we've been talking about, Jared mentioned at the end of his talk that Purecoin and Primecoin, these are all coins that are basically the same as Bitcoin in their total value proposition, and they just differ in the ways that they go about securing the network. Dan Larimer and Invictus Innovations are working on a series of projects that are nothing like Bitcoin, that utilize some of the similar things to Bitcoin, some of the similar mechanisms, but have a fundamentally different value proposition. And I think it's going to be something that we're going to be seeing a lot more going into this space. So thank you very much for joining us to talk about that, Daniel. Thank you. Pele Brandgaard is kind of at the other end of the spectrum, where a lot of people are working in, trying to make things more and more advanced. His Capoche wallet is usable on feature phones and specifically target the other 6.5 billion potential Bitcoin adopters, as my co-host Andreas Antonopoulos likes to say. The work that he's doing really is as close as we've gotten so far to seeing penetration into those areas where the technology really hasn't caught up with the Western world. So thank you very much for being here to talk about that. Alan is the founder and CEO of probably my favorite wallet that's out there. I'm super paranoid about, I love blockchain. We had them as a sponsor for a while, but I'm concerned about the value of Bitcoin on the internet. And I'm concerned about wallets that make it so that you're vulnerable to that, even if it is more convenient. There's no such thing as a wallet that's totally convenient and also totally secure. And I think that, in the spectrum, Armory falls, at least to this point, on the very, very secure line and not so much on the convenient side, but you're trying to change that. In addition, Alan is one of the most knowledgeable developers in the Bitcoin protocol that I'm familiar with who isn't working directly on the core development team. So he'll be able to talk to us about what's coming in the future for the protocol, generally speaking. Thank you very much. And finally, Justice Ranveer is an activist in Bitcoin who has a project that's been starting up over the last couple of months that I'm really looking forward to. Bitcoin is so innovative, but one of the things that makes it's difficult is that if you want to sign a contract denominated in Bitcoin, then that contract has to live in a jurisdiction. There has to be a country who has legal authority over it. And so what Justice is designing is a system, and it's not even necessarily a system, it's more like a protocol where you don't have to have that anymore, where arbitration or where this sort of conflict resolution can be handled in advance in an estateless fashion at a very low cost that includes everybody. So thank you very much for being here to talk about that. The format of this is I have questions for people, but I would like to take questions from the audience. So we're going to go through 2 questions each. I have a third for each one. After 2 questions, we're going to start lining up, and we'll take questions. We have a limited amount of time for this, so I'm going to get right into it. Okay, starting with Alex. Bitcoin and e-commerce are often talked about in the same breath. But the old way of thinking is, again, that shopping cart workflow that we've kind of been talking about for credit cards. Can you describe why it was that you thought it was important to do something different than that and how you went about doing it?
Right, so let's take a shopping cart and go more shopping online experience. We have one of the demos that's actually a wow. People see that and they're wowed. When they go to there's a page that sells a video. And then you go to that page on your browser and the video says, well, it can't be played, please pay. And then you take your phone. You don't touch the keyboard, you don't create an account, you don't validate your email address, you don't send billing information, especially for a video. Right? Send the money, and that's it. I would like to see. And what we do is we integrate into that site, and you take your phone out, send the money, and in-your-face video starts. Right? That's what I wanted to be able to create and bring Bitcoin's real-time nature to each website. So instead of having an invoice-centric approach, which I really disliked, let me tell you a story. I was trying to buy something with Bitcoin, clicked on pay with Bitcoin, was redirected to another site with a different branding signature, and then I sent the money through still being shaky a little bit. Now, I didn't see anything happen for a couple of seconds. I clicked back, then it was back to the other site with no context at all. So I was wondering where my money was, and I clicked pay again, and then I was presented another invoice, so I was wondering, where was my money? How was it tacked together? Should I pay that one? So no context at all. That annoyed me. So I said it would be way better to have that totally integrated into the site. So I went out and built BitCredits where you can add a JavaScript line to your website, and the forms are built in, and you actually deal with credit. So you send the money to the website, and you strengthen the brand, right? You're sending money to the actual website you trust, and then you can transact value on that website. You send the money, send more money, it's all updated in real time in front of you. So we're dealing with all the security and the other aspects. So our goal is really to bring the full capacity, the real-time nature of Bitcoin and all its different aspects, refunds and all these stuff, directly inside the website and keep the experience very, streamlined. So I think that's a way better way to, especially since Bitcoin allows that, right? So why would we profit from that?
BitCredits essentially allows customers to have a wallet that is on a store website and to have credit, right?
So somehow it's not a wallet in the sense that you can't withdraw. So we allow websites to create their own currency, right? Their own way to transact money. So we kind of bridge 2 things. Credits, which exists outside of Bitcoin right now, Facebook credits and stuff like that, and Bitcoin. And that gives us a powerful mix because we give that to websites. And it's great for them for loyalty programs, because they have credits that can come back to that site. It's left on the site. Then you can create coupons or for donations. Our widget doesn't require to pay $50, like what we see with credit card. Always, you need an amount. But now you can send $15, and that'll give you, 5 credits for movies. And you consume one, leave it there, and consume another one later on. So you kind of lock in your value up there. And with the volatility in Bitcoin is great. Somehow gift cards, right? You send the money and then you lock the value there. It's not going to be volatile. You have $100 of USD for shoes that you can buy now or later. And that's great for the merchant because now he has the money up front. And a lot of businesses, live on positive cash flows like that. So I think it's pretty cool.
Thank you, Alex. Daniel, this conference is about Bitcoin, but Bitcoin is itself a cryptocurrency, which is itself a larger class of kind of Bitcoin-like protocols that use similar mechanisms to Bitcoin, such as a blockchain, but other things they do differently. You're the CEO of Invictus Innovations, a company who's already created one such cryptocurrency called ProtoShares, although definitely not the first. There's something different about yours. Can you talk to us about ProtoShares?
So what we do at Invictus is we don't build cryptocurrencies, we build crypto equities. These would be decentralized corporations where the stock of the corporation is not like a legal entity, but the stock is the cryptocurrency. And then we take that metaphor and we allow you to do dividends and many other business models implemented on a blockchain. So the first thing we introduced is ProtoShares. If you go to coinmarketcap.com, there's a ton of coins. We're the only shares. And ProtoShares are different than every other cryptocurrency out there because their value proposition is not derived from their use of money, but from what we're going to do is we're going to honor their position in our future blockchains, our future decentralized businesses. And it's a pretty big one that's our flagship is BitShares. And so every ProtoShare you get, you're going to be able to import your wallet and end up with a BitShare. So in order to understand the value proposition of ProtoShares, which we launched in November, and it's had a market cap as high as $40 million, and it's a month later. It's currently around 25 million. You have to understand what we're doing with BitShares. It's a decentralized bank and exchange that allows you to lend dollars into existence in the same way that the centralized banks lend dollars into existence. You can have dollars on deposit that earn you interest at 5% or more. And it's a dividend-paying equity. So Bitcoin, you can trade it, and its value can go up and change over time. But 100% of the profits from the transaction fees are paid to the employees of Bitcoin, the miners. Here we're paying it to the shareholders, and we're trying to minimize expenses. So it's an entirely different metaphor for designing and building crypto systems.
So one of the other things that defined the ProtoShares launch was that a lot of things went wrong. And a lot of things, you kind of had a roadmap and a plan of what you thought was going to happen, but it sort of blew up. But yet, like you said, you're still in the top 10 valuations of all the cryptocurrencies that are out there after only a month of being out, with fewer coins in existence than most of the other chains that are out there. What happened?
Well, we learned very quickly that setting the initial difficulty is like an IPO price. And if you underestimate it, then you're going to have way too many miners, and the network's going to have to work very hard to catch up. We learned a lot from this experience, and it actually was a very positive development for us. First, as much as you want to try to make sure that the coins are distributed evenly, we try to get a CPU-only algorithm and things like that. There's really no fair way of doing it. People who have access to clouds end up mining it, things like that. And then there's perverse incentives of the mining system where it actually financially motivate people not to include transactions for
to be more efficient?
Yeah, to be more efficient so you don't have the latency, because you collect the coins but you're not providing the service to the network. All of a sudden you realize that Bitcoin was successful because it could grow slowly, but if you launch something that grows very quickly, there's a lot of little weaknesses in the Bitcoin network that we exposed in our launch, and we're hoping to improve by adopting more of a proof-of-stake system in the future. And it's all focused on the goal of minimizing the expenses to the network. Bitcoin's got a 12% drag every year in new coins diluting the existing Bitcoins. If you can eliminate that drag and you can pay dividends, you can change the entire value proposition for future coins. So we learned a lot from the ProtoShares launch, and its value, despite these problems, we're still honoring the social contract. So it's a way to speculate on the future value of BitShares and our other products today while they're still in development. So that's unique.
At this point, given the experience you've had so far, is this something that you would recommend to other companies that are looking to get into the space?
It's definitely a wonderful marketing technique. It's a new way of crowdsourcing. We created this cryptocurrency. It's got all this value. We mined a lot of it ourselves, but of course nowhere near as much as we'd like to have. It created an instant community. We went from a brand new forum with hardly anyone on it to almost 2,000 people in a month. And people created block explorers. There's several exchanges that listed us. And just the publicity associated with doing it's really amazing. The challenges figuring out the business model behind the coin, simply releasing a coin, is it's got to have a purpose, and it's got to make business sense to both the users and yourself. But I think there's a lot of opportunity for anyone who wants to create decentralized businesses to launch it this way, or for to do hybrid approaches where you have a cryptocurrency that's redeemable by a company. and it's not that expensive to create your own coin.
Thank you, Dana. Pele, Africa is often identified as an area of potentially explosive growth for Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies. Why is that?
Well, Africa is a continent that's in it's incredible flux right now. It's a continent that's tired of the reputation it has. It's tired of poverty. It's tired of bad government. It's tired of aid agencies, NGOs, and all of that. It's a continent that's going out and growing and doing things for themselves right now. And Bitcoin solves a lot of issues because a lot of problems Africa has had has been based on people saying, no, you can't have that, you can't do this, security issues and all kinds of stuff. And Bitcoin really helps solve a lot of issues. Africa is primarily a country of unbanked people. Even I was in South Africa a couple of weeks ago, and I was surprised in a place as developed and rich as South Africa that still 65% of the population are unbanked. So there's a lot of people looking for solutions, a lot of people looking for ways that they can send money, receive money, they can store money, they can buy things, they can sell things. It's a really exciting place to be right now, and the growth is just incredible down there.
It seems like each device ecosystem is a little bit varied, and because the problems of someone trying to get onto Apple's platform are very different than someone trying to get onto a feature phone platform. Can you tell us about the Kapochi wallet that you've created and kind of some of the challenges of working with that type of audience?
Yeah, unlike many other startups here, we're working with really, really old technology. We use abbreviations like USSD, which most of you probably never heard of, but that is a fantastic. It's not really fantastic, but it's there. It's a technology that allow people to interact with applications, online applications via an SMS backbone. I'm guessing the technology is about 15 years old and maybe older. It was really weird looking at it first, but in Africa, that's what you need to do if you want to get out to everyone. We also have a mobile web version of our wallet. Well, basically, I should say what our product does. Our product, if you are a regular Bitcoiner, you look at our product and you'll be, is this it? Yes, it's it. It's a very, very simple wallet. It integrates with your mobile phone number, so you can receive and send money to phone numbers, which is very important because that's how people send money today in Africa. We have a very simple mobile web version of it. We have a USSD version of it, which is this very simple menu-based interface. We can actually offer a SIM toolkit version, which is another technology that most of you probably have forgotten everything about, but it's a technology where you install an app on the actual SIM card. We haven't had any takers from operators yet on that, but I mean, one of the problems with working with these kinds of old-fashioned technologies is that you need to work closely with the mobile phone operators. So that's what we're spending most of the time doing right now, educating, reaching out, those kinds of things. It's a slow process, but we will get there. And once we start going online properly with these, we'll start seeing huge numbers of uptake.
I was pleased to see that you had recently integrated with M-Pesa, which is the very dominant, and maybe integrated is the wrong word, you can correct me, but I had always kind of viewed them as the primary competitor to what you were trying to do in that space. Am I wrong about that?
Oh, you're absolutely right. They're our primary competitor. Well, at least that's what they think. So after 2 weeks after launching, we had like I call it a ghetto integration with M-Pesa, and they shut us down. But that's all right. We figured that would happen at some point. It was just a proof of concept that we did. M-Pesa, for those of you who aren't aware of it, is the most successful mobile money system in the world. This is based in Kenya, and I keep hearing varying numbers about the amount of people who use it, but it's probably something like 80% of adults, or 70-80% of adults have an M-Pesa account.
What type of fees?
The fees are quite high, and they're growing because the government just added transaction taxes to it as well. However, it's a very old-fashioned system, and if you're a developer and you want to integrate with it, it's the biggest headache you could possibly believe. I mean, the amount of the solutions that people have come up with down there really to actually create merchant solutions with M-Pesa really speaks to the brilliance of some of the Kenyan hackers. I mean, they're talk to me afterwards, and I'll come up with some. I'll tell you some of the stories. But it's a quite terrible old system, but it won the network, and it's everywhere. So you can pay with M-Pesa in a lot of stores in Kenya. You can send money anywhere. The big problem with M-Pesa and all the other mobile money systems is that you can't send money to other networks. You can't send money abroad. You can't receive money from abroad. There's also a lot of other countries in Africa where they've tried to emulate the success of M-Pesa, but they haven't been able to do it because no one's been able to reach that network effect. So it's an interesting thing. Like all the operators, they want to follow this model. An interesting thing with the M-Pesa model is that you don't go to a bank to buy M-Pesa. You go to an agency, and some of these agencies, it's just basically like a little shack made from zinc, painted green with like a hand-painted M-Pesa logo on. And you just go in there and you say, I want 100 shilling on my phone, and you get 100 shilling sent to you on your phone. You get a text message immediately. The point of sale system is another feature phone. So this is great system that actually, it's a quite interesting system that works well with Bitcoin. The great thing about M-Pesa is I have zero problems explaining Bitcoin in Kenya because I just say people, if they ask, so what are you doing? Oh, I work with this thing called Bitcoin. And they say, so what's that? I say, oh, it's just like M-Pesa, except it works internationally and it's a different currency. I say, okay, that's it. There's no questions about it. It works exactly the same way. And we've been quite successful in reaching out to people. There are some regulatory issues down there. We are working closely with the central bank in Kenya, and will be in other countries as well. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun. It's a slow process in some respect. But the great thing about Africa is that if there's a new technology that comes and it really solves a problem, people will attack it and adopt it and reinvent it and everything. It'll go quickly once we solve the exchange issue, which is like the major issue for us right now, because we have to really go in and integrate with large companies. So,
thank you, Peli.
When you shop with Bitcoin on Gift, you can get gift cards from over 200 retailers. Think of the possibilities. Not only is your holiday shopping taken care of in a snap from your Android device or on the web, but now you have a way to purchase everyday items from stores like Target, CVS, Gap, and GameStop using your Bitcoins. That's not even the best part. When you shop with Bitcoin on Gift, you get 3% back. Ready to shop? Visit GYFT.com today. Hi, Stephanie here. Would you like to turn your book into an enthralling audiobook? Need a persuasive commercial to promote your company? How about a narrator for your explainer video? Here's where I can help. I'm a freelance voiceover artist, and since 2009, I've lent my voice to dozens of audio projects. To hear some examples of my work, check out my website, smvoice.info. If you like what you hear, I'd love to be the voice of your next project. Get in touch at smvoice.info.
Alan, the Bitcoin protocol as described in the Satoshi white paper is actually pretty different from the Bitcoin that we're using today. And it's not that, it's just that it's different. And there are things that are possible in the code that haven't really been activated or we haven't figured out how to implement yet. Can you kind of talk to us about some of the more exciting things you see coming?
So I don't think that what Satoshi wrote in his white paper is really that much different than what Bitcoin is today. Most of the core concepts are there. Probably his biggest mistake or projections was having to do with mining. He believed that Bitcoin was going to be made up of a network of people and all of them would have have their computer CPU mining, and that everyone in the world would be mining with their CPU, and the inflation of the system would all be going to all the participants at once. And instead, we ended up with this arms race of mining hardware and ASICs, and even before ASICs, GPUs. It became a very specialized system. So that was one thing that wasn't quite what Satoshi had in mind when he created it. But I think most of the other core concepts of Bitcoin are there. His paper was very proof of concept. It was more kind of looking at what could happen, but it didn't describe everything that Bitcoin is being used for now and what it will be used for. But it was pretty clear by the way that he designed it and his subsequent 2 years kind of in the community helping develop it, that he built a whole programming scripting language into the system. I mean, Bitcoin is programmable money. And he very clearly understood that more than just being able to move money from one person to another, that you can do really complex things with this. For instance, a lot of people have heard of multi-signature transactions. This is something that's not in use right now, but Armory, which I developed, is something I hope to innovate, where you can actually encumber your funds requiring multiple signatures. You could put 3 people or 3 devices onto your wallet, and then you need 2 signatures from any one of those from any of those devices in order to move the funds, which dramatically increases the security. That's not something that was really mentioned in the white paper. Then, of course, it's been a while since I read it, so I don't remember. But a lot of these things were not mentioned. The richness of kind of contracts that you can build with the protocol, but we're not really there. But I mean, he very clearly had that in mind when he developed this programmable money system. And, I think that he didn't know everything that was going to be built off of it, but he certainly knew how powerful it was when he made it.
Okay. So let's jump forward then and talk about some of the programmable money applications that are coming in the next, say, a year to 18 months. One of the ones that's been most interesting to me, because I deal a lot with microtransactions, is the concept of microbilling. Mm-hmm. And I don't even know if that's the correct term for it, but I mean, it's a term that's being used for it. Can you kind of explain to the audience what microbilling is and what types of niches it might be used in?
So one of the issues of the Bitcoin protocol is that, it's not really the protocol. There's kind of an artificial limit on how many transactions can flow through it. And there's, me and a lot of the developers believe that that'll have to be increased at some point to accommodate how fast Bitcoin is growing. But until then, we do, while Bitcoin was kind of proposed as a method of being able to do microtransactions very efficiently, having a billion people executing thousands of transactions, per day, to pay 2 cents to view a web page or $1 to pay, to watch a video, 30-second video. The system wasn't really, is not really in a shape to handle that. However, what one of these advanced contract concepts that I don't know if Satoshi ever acknowledged it or if it had been kind of devised before he kind of exited the scene, was this idea that you can create a system where you create a payment, but you can replace it later. And the payment basically is, it's called time locked, that you have 30 days or whatever time you choose, to replace this payment. And that replacement can happen without touching the blockchain or the network or anything. And so you can guarantee someone a payment, and then you too, off the network, can mutually agree to change that. And they'll know, both parties know that the final state of this transaction is valid, and if both parties just suddenly stop responding, the current state of that, the replacement would go through, which means that you can now charge, you set up one of these micropayment channels, they're calling it, and you can actually bill, say, walk into a coffee shop, sign up with their internet, and you'll give them maybe a 1 week time lock. And for that week, every kilobyte, every megabyte, every second, whatever you want, every tiny increment that you pay them, you can simply just replace the payment that you made to them, giving them more, and you don't have to touch the network. And it's very, very efficient. You could do literally 1,000 microtransactions a second. And so what you're doing is you're taking this two parties that are engaging in some relationship, you're setting up a channel and then you're letting them do as many microtransactions as they want, as fast as they want. You can do up to like 4 billion before the thing expires. So it really opens up the possibility of, you could sign up with, say, the New York Times. I forget which, maybe Wall Street Journal that charges for their articles. You could just set up a monthly payment, and for every page you read, they could charge you a penny. Makes pay per use much easier. And those microtransactions then become instantaneous. You don't have to wait for the confirmations. So you're replacing these thousands of transactions that you would do with basically 2 transactions, one at the front and one at the end to finalize it. And this is something that I think Bitcoin J, which is kind of an API that people, developers are building applications off of. I think they implemented that, and it's something that the other wallet developers want to implement, because it really does. When you're doing a lot of transactions between parties that have a relationship and are going to do a lot of transactions with one another, it really takes a lot of load off the blockchain, and it takes this system of thousands of transactions and converts it to basically 2, and then they can all happen instantaneously and as many as you want.
Thank you, Alan.
Yep.
Justice, and we have microphones over here and over here. After I finish questioning Justice here, we'll be taking questions, so if anybody wants to start lighting up, you're welcome to do that now. Justice, one of the good news, bad news features about Bitcoin is that it's neutral and irreversible. That works great when things go well, and it works kind of poorly when they don't. I know that feels like this got louder. I know that you're working on a solution kind of to this problem, so can you tell us about this?
Yeah, one of the first things that attracted me to Bitcoin when I learned about it was that it is a currency for the world. It's not specific to any country, and it has wide-ranging uses and might even be most useful for people outside the developed world, people who don't have traditional economic opportunities. But when you start to think about how can we actually enable all of these people in the developing world to enter a global decentralized marketplace, you need more than just currency. You need the ability to create business deals and contracts, and beyond that, you need a way to create recourse and dispute resolution whenever something doesn't go according to plan. Right now, there are no good solutions for that. So what we're working on, myself in a collaboration with some other people, is a method for writing smart contracts that builds recourse directly into the contract in the form of bonds. All the parties in a contract lock up money ahead of time, which is released by a series of scripts. If the main business deal closes and everybody's happy with it, everyone gets their bond back, no problem. If there is a dispute or a problem of some kind, if there are what would be contractual damages in a court, then the contract, by the virtue of one of the parties issuing a dispute message, now we move to another stage where some sort of third-party arbitration will decide the allocation of the bond. And we're going to have a general API for these contracts. So ideally, in as many cases as possible, you would want that third-party arbiter to be an automated software agent. But in the case where you have a dispute by its nature that requires some sort of human judgment and intervention, then you would tie that third-party arbitration into a mutually chosen human arbitration company. So we have the marketplace for doing business deals and also a marketplace for people to advertise arbitration companies, and tying it all together into a convenient user interface.
So now, why is this something that's better than a solution that's out there right now like Judge.me that does allow that's a centralized solution, but it does allow for stateless contracts?
Well, one of the things that's so advantageous about Bitcoin is its decentralized nature. And what you get with decentralization is an absence of censorship and prior restraint. And those are features that no centralized solution in general can ever provide. Because anything that's tied up into a traditional business model, they're going to operate in a legal jurisdiction. They're going to have rules that they have to follow to stay in business, which may not be what their customers actually want. So I see centralized solutions to these general business problems as a step backwards. We have a completely free market, decentralized money, and all of our solutions we build on top of that should retain the same characteristics without adding central points of failure.
So play out the logic for a second. If you're successful with what you're doing, what does the world look like in 5 years?
Our goal is to create a world, I'll talk about it in two parts. For creators of digital deliverables in the developed world, we want to make their lives a lot more flexible in terms of where they can live. The overall goal is, if you're operating in the digital realm, it shouldn't matter where your residence is. Your economic opportunities should be the same. So for people who, say, are living in the higher cost of living countries, that they might not want to move there, they may not want to live there inherently, but they have to for their own economic reasons. We want to give you freedom on that end to live wherever you want in the world and still access the same marketplace. On the other side, we have the people living in the developed world who do not have access to global markets, who are they're shut out. They can't get effective entrance into these markets. They can't sell to a U.S. company because even if they're capable of doing the work, nobody trusts them. Why would you hire a programmer from Nigeria when that country has this geographic stigma attached to it because of email scammers? When you create smart contracts that are not dependent on government-issued law systems, they cross borders frictionlessly. So now somebody who is a good programmer in Nigeria can ensure their contracts that they sign in a way that anyone will trust them. Now they do have access to a global customer base. Now they can take full advantage of the economic opportunities that cryptocurrencies bring.
Thank you, Justice. And we'll go to our first listener question over here.
Okay, thanks. How you doing? David, very quickly, from New York, we work closely with some Wall Street firms, and we've always seen Bitcoin as being in the future tied to corporate shares in such a way as to create added value within the corporate economic ecosystem. So thank you for your work there, and Bridget, I hope to talk to you about that later. Pele, in terms of Kenya, you have like Douglas Goldie Scott's BitPesa, coming up there in Kenya. There's a lot of competition in that space for the Bitcoin market and money transfer and money remittance, et cetera. Where do you see the rest of the world going with that? You mentioned that the concept of replicating M-Pesa around the world has been a difficult one. Really, why is that? And where do you see that also hot spots around the world that are catching on in that regard?
Well, BitPesa is a great company. They're friends of mine, and we have weekly beer and burgers, Bitcoin, crypto, all of that kind of stuff in Nairobi. BitPesa are doing something quite different than we are. They're basically providing, I know they're billing themselves as a remittance company, but what they're really doing is they're an exchange, an out exchange for use in Kenya. And we're not really doing that. We're more trying to replicate or trying to turn Bitcoin into a mobile money system and then integrating with companies like BitPesa.
I see.
One of the other question you had about why mobile money systems have been difficult to replicate, it's basically payment systems are networks. So for a payment system to take off, like any other network, there has to be enough people on the network. So M-Pesa was able to grow really quickly, and the majority of the adult population had an M-Pesa account very quickly, so they were able to take off. So you get the strange situation where you get other countries like Tanzania, Uganda, where there may not be one clear winner, and people are using mobile money. It's just not quite clear which one is the winner because of that. And I actually see Bitcoin as solving that, because Bitcoin is a very large payment network. So if mobile money providers, instead of creating the small little islands, as we call them, they can join into Bitcoin, and then you can send money from Uganda to Rwanda to whatever between operators and those kinds of things.
So Bitcoin is the underlying platform for any service that happens to be, be it M-Pesa, be it Vodafone, be whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I see Bitcoin as being TCP/IP for money, and that's basically all of these different services can build on top of Bitcoin.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sean Wilkinson. I'm a casual Bitcoin developer and also PureCoin web lead. My question is more on the development side. How you guys went about developing the products and services that you're offering. One thing that I'm kind of seeing in the kind of Bitcoin community, we have all this cool, nice technology, stuff like multi-signature transactions, which is amazing. But then you try to explain that to the developer to actually build and implement that, and they're just like, okay, how do I go about this? There's so little resources to be able to figure that out and be able to actually build that out into a product. So how do you guys go about figuring out the information you need to build out your product, and maybe how can we in the future kind of build out resources so the people in this room can more easily build out products and services for Bitcoin?
I think that's still a challenge in this community. I mean, Bitcoin itself, in some ways, is still has some soul searching to do in terms of how to market itself, how it's going to develop, how it's going to appeal to people, how businesses are going to build themselves around it. I mean, Bitcoin is a fairly complex system, especially at the developer level. I can tell you from having been started my own business recently and trying to get developers that you really do need when you're having people actually dealing with the Bitcoin protocol, you do really need people who are very, very skilled and really capable of understanding these deep concepts and getting into it. And I do see that as something that is going to be challenging for Bitcoin. If it's this difficult to get developers to build out the infrastructure, then Bitcoin isn't going to grow as fast as as we'd hoped. But there's all the information is out there. I mean, really, I think most of the issue is developer resources. A lot of it is that we just don't have enough people who are that interested in it. I'm sure the recent growth of Bitcoin has drawn a lot of attention into it, but there's still a lot of.
I just want to say that it's been really hard for us to find developers as well. So we've experienced that, and the information's out there. I was able to learn everything I needed to do it from the information that's out there, but it is hard to find people who have taken the time to experiment with it and understand the first principles behind cryptocurrencies.
So my take on that obviously comes from my standpoint with bitcredits.io is that, see, we're talking about microtransaction channels. All these things, if we wanted users to use that, would need to be built in the wallet. And for example, sending more money each time to someone after each kilobytes, the actual device would need to encrypt all these things. So it's a heavy, requirement on the app side, making that thing really difficult. So that's why I think services like us and a lot of other services who are going off blockchain, right, doing microtransaction elsewhere, well, they can tailor the experience to their particular service. And that's why I'm really proud of it. Our development API, makes it very easy for developers to build their own experience and tailor it to their needs. And it's all off blockchain when you're dealing with credits and small transactions. Otherwise, I think, the burden goes on the wallet side, and it's going to be very difficult to have an experience that's good for all types of services built into the wallet. Yeah.
Stuart, do we have time for one more, or did you say this was the last one?
Thank you.
One more? Okay, over there, you're it. Sorry, guys.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I just have two questions for Pili. The first is, what kind of, what market share does Capochi actually have in Africa? Because you mentioned that M-Pesa is currently dominating the market share for that.
Well, right now, Bitcoin it's mainly used by enthusiasts down there. So to get out to a very broad audience, you need integration with mobile phone operators, with banks, and other kinds of institutions to get the really wide usage. So the actual percentage is, it's tiny. I'm not even gonna try and estimate, but it's gonna grow a lot in the next year. I think we're had some conversation before where I was talking about Bitcoin. Bitcoin time is 7 times the speed of internet time, so this is going to happen really, really quickly. And I think probably Bitcoin time in Africa is probably going to be even quicker. But there's a lot of things that needs to be in place for it to to reach up to a noticeable, to actually show up as a beep yet. But we will get there.
Thank you very much to everyone on the panel.
Thanks for listening to episode 74 of Let's Talk Bitcoin. Snapcard interview was produced by Adam B. Levine, edited by Matthew Zipkin, and featured Adam B. Levine, Michael Dunworth, and Gianni Gennaro. Thanks to MediaBistro for putting on the Inside Bitcoins conference. The New Ideas in Bitcoin panel was recorded live at the event by the Let's Talk Bitcoin team. Music was provided by Jared Rubens, Calvin Henderson, and Matthew Murkowski. Questions or comments? Email Adam at letstalkbitcoin.com. Have a good one.